Hello everyone, my name is Lamin Jai and this is News Review. Coming up on the show today, Boubacar Keita's lawyer, that's lawyer Lamin S. Kamara, calls on court to make sure the case is taken seriously as a person's life is hanging in the balance. Also, Gambians speak on the controversial $54 million loan scheme there by members of the National Assembly. My guest today will be political science lecturer at the University of the Gambia, Seyd Mati Jaw. These and more, but first we will quickly go through the newspapers. I have the Standard and the Point newspapers as well. Barrow not copying Jammeh, that's according to Sidin Jai. That's the lead story on the Standard newspaper. Supreme Court to hear Yankuba's immunity case tomorrow. APRC diaspora bankrolls preparations for 2021. Court asks state to speed process in diplomatic passport case there. Two more cars stolen as vehicle theft surges. According to the Standard newspaper stories, a former spokesperson of APRC and now strong supporter of President Adama Barrow has described as baffling claims that the president is copying from Jammeh's bad governance style book. In recent months, critics have accused President Barrow of adopting Jammeh's politics of inducement, patronage, and other discredited styles of the former dictator in his bid to keep power. But in a Standard exclusive, Sidin Jai said, "It always baffles me when I hear critics of the president accusing him of being a dictator. He is not one. I think we need political hygiene in this country. We need very genuine opposition and critics who criticize based on facts and provide solutions that will change the status quo. President Barrow," he added, "has complete respect for due process as established by law." Supreme Court to hear Yankuba's immunity case tomorrow. The Supreme Court of the Gambia, presided over by Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallow, yesterday adjourned the constitutional immunity case involving the state and Yankuba Toure to Friday, 4th December for hearing. The Chief Justice made this announcement after the court acknowledged receipt of all the processes filed in the case by the parties. Yankuba Toure is challenging his prosecution by the state for the alleged murder of his colleague Usman Koro Sise, then finance minister in the AFPRC government in June 1995. APRC diaspora bankrolls preparations for 2021. APRC supporters in the diaspora recently mobilized some $236,000 as part of its preparations for the upcoming presidential election next year. Our Sanyang, president of the Kafoti Kafo, a diaspora organization based in Finland, said the donation is meant to support the members that cannot afford to pay the fees to acquire national identification cards. Court asked state to speed process in diplomatic passport case. Justice Ibrahima Bajaite has directed State Prosecutor Patrick Gomez to regularize and serve their processes in the amendment of the charges before his court. Justice Jaita gave this directive yesterday while presiding over the matter when State Prosecutor Gomez applied for adjournment to withdraw the charge against the accused persons Mansa Sumare and Ibrahima J. Sane at the Bundung High Court and amend the charge. Two more cars stolen as vehicle theft surges. Two cars were recently stolen as vehicle theft increases in the greater Banjul area. Let's see what Point is saying. Geology Sanyang VDC confirmed no destruction at Sanyang women rice farms. Barrow leaves for Nigeria today. I think the president has already left. OIC Gambia congratulates new OIC Secretary General. Barrow appoints Musa Mbub as advisor to the league. That's the drug law enforcement agency there. Bloombank Africa Gambia Limited unveiled. So on the Point lead story today, officials of the Geology Department and members of the Sanyang Village Development Committee, VDC, have denied reports alleging that the Gambia-Angola-China holding GACH destroyed rice fields belonging to women of Sanyang village of Combo South in the West Coast region. OIC Gambia congratulates new OIC SG. That's the Gambia OIC Secretariat, on the leadership of the Chief Executive Officer Yankuba Diba, wishes to extend warm felicitations and best wishes to His Excellency Ambassador Hussein Ibrahim Taha of the Republic of Chad on his election as the new Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC there. Barrow appoints Musa Mbub as advisor to the league. President Adama Barrow has appointed Musa Mbub as advisor to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the Gambia, effective 1st December 2020. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So the attorney defending Boubacar Keita on Thursday asked the High Court there in Bundung to make sure that the rape case of the businessman is taken seriously. My lord, I think we need to take this matter very seriously. I don't want to downplay the charge, but similarly, we cannot downplay the fact that a person's life is hanging in the balance. He cannot stand there and give statements. Lamin S. Kamara told George Mamadou S.M. Jallo of the High Court there in Bundung. The lawyer made the comments after the senior state lawyer in the case, that's Alassane Job, attempted to guide a key witness in the trial that has generated national interest. The case resumed or returned on Thursday, during which Keita's ex-wife began answering a question regarding her divorce. February 12, 2020 was when my marriage ended in divorce, the witness testified at one point. She had earlier pushed back at any suggestions of her marriage collapsing on 6th November 2019 by saying she couldn't remember what happened on that date because as far as she could recall, her marriage collapsed in February 2020. The resumption of the case there on Thursday, that's today, first saw state attorneys lose their bid to have the court disallow anything that has to do with the witness's divorce. I was there at the court earlier today. That was a part of what happened during the trial today. The case has now been solved. It is adjourned to 10th of this month. Away from that, members of the National Assembly sparked controversy when they approved a proposal for a loan scheme of up to $54 million last week for them to be able to build houses for themselves. Many Gambians have expressed anger at the move there. So Fatou Camara was out today, our Fatou Camara reporter was out today to talk to Gambians about this. More in this report.
For the first time in the Gambia, your favorite GSM operator, Africell, is the first and only GSM operator to launch a brand new technology called the eSIM. The eSIM simply means you can use your phone without a SIM card. Do you have an iPhone 11, any of the iPhone X series, a Google Pixel 3, or any new phone that supports the e-technology? Then walk into any Africell customer care center and activate your eSIM today. With your virtual Africell SIM, you can use more than one number without having a physical SIM card in your phone. Enjoy this brand new technology for the first time in the Gambia, brought to you by Africell. eSIM, your phone without a SIM card. For more information, please call 111. Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back. Our apologies there. We understand some of you are having issues with the sound there. We'll try to fix that problem. But now I'm joined by Setu Matijau, a political science lecturer at the University of the Gambia. He's my guest today. Sejau, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Today, if you look at the Standard, their lead story is about Barrow Jammeh, Barrow not copying Jammeh. That's according to Sidin Jai. What do you make of that? The fact that Sidin Jai was there all throughout, and now he's with Barrow, and now he's making such comments that Jammeh, well, Barrow is not Jammeh in terms of how Jammeh governed, in terms of, you know, politics of patronage, politics of inducement, if you like. What do you make of that?
Well, in terms of the politics, personally, I don't see any difference because it's the same, you know, vote for development, you know, discourse that they have adopted. So I think when people liken Barrow to Jammeh, they're going back to those issues, you know, going around saying that you must vote for me, you know, in order to enjoy development and all that. But again, also for me, you know, being part of the whole transitional process, I don't feel like I'm not feeling the transition that was promised 4 years ago. And what I'm seeing is like still is the same 1997 constitution that is here that gives Barrow the same powers that was given to Jammeh. It's the same laws, it's the same way of doing business. So I think these are the reason why people, you know, want to compare them. And for me, the only way where we could have differentiated the two was for Barrow to follow, President Barrow to follow his own agenda, which was to transform and properly democratize this country, bring a new constitution, reform the security and all those things. But so far we see the same institutions, we see the same structure. So for me, I say Barrow is Jammeh 2.0.
Well, as an independent analyst, what do you think must have been the reason why the transition agenda was abandoned?
Well, the very fact that Barrow wants to continue, I mean, wants to self-perpetuate, wants to stay in power, wants to contest. Because if you remember, the most crucial element or the most critical element within the constitution that divided the whole country was about his term. In fact, he promised people that he was going to be there for 3 years, but then end up, you know, say forming his own political party, and he's still preparing for next year's election. So, I mean, his agenda, you know, for continuing in the same position, I think was the very reason why all these reforms are not moving forward, because primarily he wants to self-perpetuate, and that's exactly what Jammeh was trying to do, to lead here for 1 billion years.
Why do you think the president is interested in self-perpetuating?
Well, maybe he would be the best person to tell us. But then for me, what I see is basically he has betrayed the trust that we had in him based on the manifesto that he promised the public. So why he wants to continue, maybe the power is sweet. Maybe, you know, he feels like he can do many things for this country. But of course, I feel that he should have been the Barrow that the public supported, the Barrow that the people had hope in, but otherwise he's his own man. For me, that's how I see it.
And how do you connect that to the fact that you have people who support him, people are flocking to him by the day, saying that he is the right man for this job, he is the man to take this country to the promised land. Someone who came with this vow or pledge or promise of this transition and this promise of change, and now veering off to self-perpetuate, and yet you have a lot of people who really love him and want him to stay and want him to continue. How do you explain that? As a political analyst,
I think it's part also of the political culture of this country, and some people will say, "Kufi yala tegrek," you know, we move you. That's part of the culture. But also we have seen it's not only Barrow. You know, when Jawara was here, everybody was saying, "Oh, you are the best, you are that," and then Jammeh came, everybody left Jawara and then joined Jammeh. It's almost the same, because also you know, I see that the same political mentality, the same political culture, you know, that was practiced by others, is the same approach that Barrow is taking, and this is what the people know, and so I think to change that would be difficult. It requires a lot of education and all those things so that it can happen. But if somebody wants to say, you know, like I said, in terms of the political culture, most people, especially the elder people, will want to say, "Yeah, lack of attack," and we don't have interest in politics, so therefore they will just follow somebody. But of course, we need to also contextualize that if the biggest challenge or the biggest opposition to Jammeh's rule was human rights violation. In Barrow's time, you know, like right now we are here, we're discussing these issues, and we're hopeful that when we go home, nothing will happen. You know, people also tend to compare those elements, and now people are free to criticize. And so some people will say, well, we have democracy, and so therefore we want to continue to support him. But for me, my argument is that democracy must be linked to socio-economic development, and how he is going about that, I don't think is in the best interest of the country.
And how do you, but here is he now, forming his own political party, a political party that is not even inaugurated yet. They participated in a by-election event, 2 events, and they registered huge success. As a political analyst, someone who observes things, what does that tell the Gambians in terms of the country's political future?
I mean, it's still murky for me, because it's a bit confusing as well, because I don't know what to expect tomorrow. So many things are happening, and of course we say in politics that the only thing that is constant is surprise, and so we are hoping that things might change. But for me, in terms of measuring Barrow, I don't measure him based on what he is doing. I measure him based on what he promised the people, which was 3 years and all those things. And for me, I still hold to that. I might be conservative or otherwise, but that's mostly the basis through which I can gauge him. But again, in terms of our political culture, in terms of our attitude, I mean, he's in Gambia, and it shows that also, like the media, civil society, people need to do more engagement so that people can see issues more differently. But so far, I mean, one for one is almost the same. Yeah.
But and one thing he would always say, the president, has to do with the fact that he is the only candidate or the only politician that Gambians would hold to account. I'm sure you must have heard him say that.
Yeah, you know, also the interesting thing for Barrow is also, you know, when he was coming in, he came in as an independent, and you know, he was supported by a lot of other people who presented them. Some are still with him, others are not, are still. Of course, if you compare him to all the others, you know, and sometimes he said that, like, he's only here for 3 months and then he killed a lion. And you know, so those elements are there, but these are his political rhetoric. These are issues that also people want to hear. There are people that do not follow the real reasons or things behind it, but they follow the words and what the president keeps saying. And so those things, so it also shows that the power of incumbency. Once you're there, people, I mean, may disagree with the government, but like people trust the government because it's the government, they want the continuity of the state. And so if he's able to, and many people are also saying that he has matured over the period. Now he's more vocal, he is stronger, and he's enjoying the rhetorics. And also in most of the other political parties, the same people that we see. And it is interesting to also note, based on studies that we have done, that for instance, the 2018 Afrobarometer shows that people here in this country generally do not trust opposition political parties. So opposition political parties have a lot of work to do. And just yesterday, I think we saw one of the advisors of the president saying that to be in opposition, it is a sin. Yes. So these are kind of rhetorics that, you know, they continue to preach, and people that believe that lack of attack syndrome and all those issues would not understand. So they continue to mislead or misinform the public about what opposition is, and also these are the same rhetorics that Jammeh used against NAT, you know, like National Association of Donkey Drivers. Those are, you know, so for me, you know, CD is my good friend, but for him to say that it's not almost the same, I don't think that is right, because the same rhetorics are being played just by different people.
You just mentioned the issue of incumbency. This is something that in Africa we know is very much, I mean, if someone gets to power, it's a done deal for him in terms of building his base, expanding his base, and all of that. And that is one thing that Halifa Sallah, who was part and parcel of this coalition, rued. He is ruining the fact that, okay, this is what he told them at the initial stage. Okay, listen, let us make sure that after 3 years, we will just remove this man's political wings, his incumbency wings. Yeah. That it was exactly what they planned to do. But at some point, some said no. Confusion started coming here and there. So, I mean, to some extent, one can pin the blame on some of the stakeholders who caused all of this, as Halifa Sallah would say.
Yeah, we can blame them, but also for me, I also think that we were too focused on Jammeh. You know, and sometimes we need to reflect on this issue, not to just blame, but we need to reflect on all of us, our mistakes and all those things, and to ensure. And even today, I'm hearing people say, "Oh, opposition should unite, either party-led or something, to remove Barrow." So we should never see our politics as an individual issue. But what we need to focus on is what will the country gain from that. Of course, the ideas of the coalition, the unity, and everything was beautiful. Everybody accepted that because we know that the laws were not in favor. It was not in favor of a genuine multi-party democracy. And even the discourse around new constitution was about that. But at the end of the day, we saw somebody that wants to continue the same way as opposed to, you know, what they promised and what the people wanted. So at some point, of course, as much as we want to blame some individuals, we need to also reflect on, you know, what are we doing wrong collectively as citizens, because they usually say that people get the government they deserve. So perhaps we also deserve Barrow.
Perhaps we deserve Barrow. I mean, a massive statement there. But you mentioned the issue of a new constitution. This was one thing that was promised by this coalition, Barrow at the front or at the heart of it. I mean, what we have seen is that that project has suffered a huge blow after MPs that are loyal to the president said, no, this is a bad document, bad work there by the CRC, we are not going to accept it, and it was thrown out. Now we have seen moves, the government trying, I mean, contingent, well, there's been a lot of pressure on that, which has, you know, prompted this whole new effort to ensuring that it goes back to the National Assembly, Parliament. What, in your view, do you see as the problem here, which led to the rebounding or the failure of the draft constitution there?
I think today I just read the papers and then I saw Elijah Jawara saying that it's about power, who should sit and who shouldn't. And I've always argued that for me, the reason why the constitution failed was the eligibility of, you know, Honorable Dabo and the eligibility of Barrow in terms of who's going to be the president. But that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But then, you know, at the end of the day, when you look at it, it's just about one individual wanting to be, you know, wanting to continue to be the president of this country. And I think for me, I agreed with a lot of people before when I said, like, okay, I blame everybody. But at the end of the day, then I looked at it again and I see that the one that was supposed to benefit more was President Barrow, because of course there is no term limit. There is no you know, majoritarian system. Now we still have, it's still first past the post system that we have, and so at the end of the day, he's still, and he's the incumbent. You mentioned that he has access to resources, and if you look at the electoral law, there is no campaign financing, and even political parties are not agreeing on those issues. So for them, they think like they also want to benefit themselves, but in general, if you look at it, they're also favoring the incumbent. So I think there needs to be law. There needs to be you know, reforms that address the issue of money in our politics. Money in our politics, the cost of politics in this country is increasing, and so therefore we need to look at that. But generally for me, I think it was more of a personal ambition compared to the popular will of the people.
Popular will of the people. Still on the draft constitution there, trying to diagnose what really went wrong. Well, I know I spoke with, Honorable Jawara, and I mean, he advanced a lot of reasons why some of them voted against the draft constitution. What he or at least a number of MPs that, you know, voted down the document that I spoke to, they say the charter, when it gets to the CRC, they did a bad job. The CRC refused to listen to them, some of them, and what they want in that charter. Yet they listen to, for example, what UDP and Ousainou Darboe complain about in terms of some law around his conviction.
I think for me, it's just like blame the other person. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's not our fault. It's them because we were not listened to. For me, my argument with, I've been talking to them, and my argument is that, well, you gave the Constitutional Review Commission the job. It was your job to look at what they did, and then you had that opportunity, but you decided to kill it. So it was not about what the job that they did. Of course, we know that no constitution or no national document is as perfect as it is, but the National Assembly had that opportunity to go into committee level. It could have been the committee of the old house, and then dissect and look at the constitution step by step and negotiate, because constitution is also not a legal process only, but it's a political process. And the reason why they could not agree and decided to kill the bill, because they feel like they would not get what they wanted, and so they denied a whole generation an opportunity to move to the next step. Today we are very confused. We don't know what is going to happen in 2021. There are a lot of things that are not right. So many legislation were also drafted in anticipation of a new constitution, like the electoral law. So we had to go back and then, ensure that it goes back to the 1997. So there are a lot of missed opportunities that were not considered. Instead, they just consider, of course, if we pass this, people might support it and all those things. But today we're talking about the issue of the farmers. Today we're talking about public finances, many issues that the new constitution did in terms of even expanding the human rights of the people, in terms of the socio-economic rights, which were more like directive principles in the 1997 constitution. The new constitution advanced those issues. I think those issues that were meant for the public were more beneficial to the public than whether the term limit of President Barrow matters. And for me, at all costs, it must be that that transitional clause that talks about that President Barrow must only serve that this current term is included. For me, that was the issue.
That was the issue.
Yeah,
but,
it was the issue.
What also do you have to say about these claims that were out there, or still continue to be out there, that it was in fact the president who spearheaded this, what I would call heinous act of ensuring that this constitution would not pass?
Well, I'm not sure the extent or how factual those claims are. But then one thing that I'm sure, and I can only point to that, is the leak article that was published by a Standard newspaper that shows that the president, the cabinet document that they did not agree with the chiefs being elected. They did not agree with the term limit. They did not agree with many of the things that the people wanted. And so they use all this time argument that it is discriminatory, it is this, it is that. It was just more of excuses. So at the end of the day, as much as we cannot confirm whether it came from him or not, the only basis that I have is also that he's the primary beneficiary. So this whole idea, whether he orchestrated it or not, he's the beneficiary. So it's his.
It's his. Well, I mean, I know this is quite now, but they wanted to go back because, upon pressure, of course. There has been a lot of pressure that has been, directed at the government to ensure that this is part of it. We've seen what the international diplomatic community has been saying. We just saw ECOWAS. They came, their president met the president, and he made it emphatically clear that they stand by the Gambian people to ensuring that this document passes.
Yeah, I think is a for me. I said I haven't seen any country that failed the process. I can give Tanzania or some other places where they went through a process and it failed and then it got back. Because right now, especially the public discourse is saying that it is orchestrated by the government itself, and some people are arguing is why do you introduce a bill and then kill the bill? I am not seeing to what extent opposition political parties, especially those that vehemently oppose, the rejection of the bill, will tend to support a new government-initiated process. That would be hard for me. But I think at the end of the day, what I keep saying is that we must all reflect and think about the future of this country, because it is what is most important. We can disagree and all that, but at the end of the day, we must know that it is what the people, a new constitution is good for this country. A new constitution would best because of the narratives that we're having right now. So for me, I'm also not seeing, based on the international, protocols that we have signed, including the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, that you don't have to do changes in the electoral process 6 months before election. So when we want to introduce new constitution, how long is going to take? And so one of the options that we have is that we just go to elections, and some people have been proposing this. We go to election, the winner perhaps take charge of a new constitution, or perhaps we follow the same other another route that has been proposed, that amending the 1997 constitution, strengthening it, ensuring that it is expanded to benefit and address the current realities of the country. But of course, these are issues that the politicians must decide, because we are followers, we are citizens, but they are our leaders, and they are the ones that should sit and discuss.
And the MPs, of course, when I interviewed Honorable Jawara yesterday, some of the MPs, I was there when they voted down this charter. You could see when they came out, they were celebrating.
Of course, we were there. Yes,
of course.
Yes.
You were there. So now I remember you were there. I asked him. He said it's absolutely right. It's absolutely fine for MPs to do such a thing and then come out and then jubilate.
Of course, it's like I think the tension that was there already shows the divide that was in Parliament. The Parliament that we know when we first started from the transition was beautiful. The collegiality, the relationship, but then partisanship became so toxic that even I remember when some of these other MPs were saying, you see others were do something on the other side. But of course they were jubilating because they achieved a goal, and their goal was to frustrate a process, and they achieved that. So of course they felt like they were the winner. But at the end of the day, it is the people that lost.
Well, while we are talking about this, while we are trying to find a way out of this, just last week they came, and then while the budget discussion session was ongoing, one of the MPs came with this proposal. Honorable Yakumba came with a proposal for them to be given, for them to borrow themselves or lend themselves $54 million to go ahead and build their own houses. What do you have to say about that? The timing. You look at the crisis that we are struggling to get out of. What do you make of the timing and the backlash?
I think my position has been very clear. I think it wasn't right. I think it even betrayed what was expected of the parliamentarians. For me, I thought personally, I feel this was the time that we need to start to reflect on how, and the budget should have addressed those issues. How do we revitalize our economy? How do we reignite the whole process? Today tourism is not coming, and then just taking 54 million. Just imagine how much wells and boreholes or water sources that 54 million can do, when the majority of the public do not have access to those things, where women have to walk distance to go and get water, where healthcare facilities are underfunded, where education is seriously underfunded, agriculture another issue, and so for some group of people, individuals, to take loan from the public fund, charge it from the public fund for their own personal gain. For me, I cannot see sense in that, and that's why I strongly oppose. I strongly oppose that, and I think the backlash also shows that. And yesterday I listened to one of the tapes that Honorable Sana Jawara, who also supported, realized that of course the people are not happy with that, and he openly apologized on that, and
flipped.
So at least I think that shows how that, of course, as much as we may disagree with some of our MPs, they're also very responsive. But I think one of the problem also is the way that we do our legislation, or even the budgeting process. There is less public participation. We not even see the budget. We cannot even access it. And so everything is between the government and the legislature. What about the people? We need to also follow the process, and we need to be also part of the budgetary process. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to be the beneficiary, we just don't want to sit there and then they come and say, take this. We want to be part of that, to ensure that where they are spending our money is what the public want, and not just to spend it anyhow and however they like.
I know this is quite a contentious issue there. Myself, I tried to interview Honorable Jayde herself, but she declined. But then she is doubling down on the fact that she came up with this idea, the fact that, well, they have a right, they have the power, per the constitution, to make, to decide their own salary, to decide their own benefits. She is doubling down that she didn't do anything wrong, that this is perfectly in place. But one thing, all the MPs that I have engaged on this issue, what they would tell me is that the media was also given some money, and this money, it was them that gave it to them. As a political analyst, I want to ask you your opinion on this. Do you think that the 15 million that was given to the media would in any way stop the media from holding to account the government? Because I was part and parcel of this process. I was invited to take part in the consultations and everything. My interest in this was to make sure, since the idea was to support members of the media, the frontline workers, the journalists, in terms of how they are going about their work. I mean, this crisis, we have seen them running everywhere, and they're working under really, really difficult conditions to at least assuage their problems. We have seen media houses shut because of their reporters got sick, contracted the disease there. So really the idea was to support members of the media. But they are saying that the media too has been given some money, so they too have to take. But do you think, in your opinion, that this chicken change, 15 million, because I see it as chicken change, if you look at how it was broken down, and if you look at the amount of money that media houses spend in a month, so do you think this will at all stop the media from keep holding this government to account?
Well, if the media feel like they can take the money and shut up, then the public will come after the media, because they shouldn't do that. This is not money that is coming from any politician. It is coming from the state. It is the people that is giving that money, and so it is public money. So therefore I don't feel like that will have any influence, because so far, since the money has been, I don't know whether it has been given, since it has been allocated, I haven't seen the media doubling down. I mean, trying to reduce what they do in terms of their criticism or showing people what is not going right in this country. I think they continue to do that work. But I think also there is one element that I have to agree in terms of the welfare of the MPs. And I keep saying this, that governance is not cheap. Governance is expensive, and I don't understand why the National Assembly, a whole body that is supposed to oversee the entire governance structure in terms of legislating and oversight, will have like 120 million, while an office of the president will have 600 million, for instance. I feel that the National Assembly must try and understand the need and the responsibility that they have. Of course, during the constitutional debate, we see some of the members say, oh, the National Assembly has too much power, and then so it has to be reduced. They need to understand that their job is not just sitting in that corner and then, and legislating. They have to do oversight, and they are doing that. But then they have to, So for me, I still think that there needs to be welfare, but then the way and then the procedure in which it must be done must be clear, must be based on the law. Of course, I'm not conversant with the law or a legal mind, but I feel that, at the end of the day, that 54 million is going to their personnel, whether they're going to pay it with their gratitude or whatever, it doesn't hold water for me. But I think their welfare must be taken care of, and not only the welfare of the National Assembly, but look at the security sector. Their welfare must be taken care of, the health sector, the teachers, everybody. So we need to, reflect on our governance structure and see how best we can spend our money, not in terms of the personnel or the operational cost, but what really goes to the people, because the National Assembly must go back to their people, must have their constituency offices. All those things cost money, and so it must be part of that. But they have the power to legislate that based on their own budget line. But for me, I don't feel like they can create any new budget line, and that is the only power that is given to the executive. It is the executive that table anything that has to do with cost, and not the National Assembly.
Now, away from that, let's talk about, you run an organization, a research group, CIPRAS, and you've been doing a lot of work in terms of gauging public opinion on a lot of issues, media, political, social. In the last year or so, what has you uncovered at the level of CIPRAS in terms of the attitude of the Gambian towards their government? Do you think that Gambians, what you have discovered, is it related to anything that has to do with Gambians not really happy with the way their politicians are going about managing their affairs?
Yeah, for me, I wear many hats. So my center is called the Center for Research and Policy Development, but under CIPRAS, I manage the Afrobarometer project there. And the Afrobarometer is a public, we conduct surveys, public opinion polls, and then ask people what they think. And so what we want to do is to encourage the public to have a say in terms of the governance. So, some questions that we ask is about the direction of the country, and in terms of that, people are very hopeful in terms of the direction of the country. And just to remind that Afrobarometer was was conducted in 2018. But then one of the things that came out, one of the things that came out also was in terms of the level of trust. You see that people here tend to trust religious institutions and traditional institutions, and then followed by government, then the military, and that then opposition political parties are the least trusted. Even the IEC is highly trusted. But also we ask people in terms of what they think their problems are, and then we hear issues of cost of living, we hear issues of unemployment. But at some point also we ask about in terms of contact with the government. There is no much contact, and there is no much contact with National Assembly. And we wrote a paper that says that citizens are not talking to their National Assembly because they feel like if they talk to their National Assembly, they will not be listened to. And sometimes these are the issues that we use and then highlight and try to make advocacy over. But again, the general feeling is that the public is aware, people know what their government is up to. And recently also we did a study for IRI for the constitutional review where people talk about the need for a time limit because they are seeing what is happening in other places where people talk about also the support for the constitution. That's why we continue to say that there was a popular support for the constitution. But for me, what we see more is like the support for democracy, the support for multi-party democracy is very clear, and I think these engagements and what we see also speaks to that.
Let's also talk about one thing, the fact that if you look at our political leaders, most of them are older people.
Yeah.
What we have seen is that the trend is about beginning to change. The margins of Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, your colleague at the university, and you see a lot of young people beginning to identify themselves with a younger politician, a younger political leader, different from what obtained.
Yeah. Well, there is also what we call the clever. In this country, we discuss like, Maginyo ya hadekabi, they don't want to come forward. People, young people are not coming into politics. So we're seeing those dynamics change because also, for me, I also contextualize the coming of CA as part of a process where also a lot of people are not so satisfied with the current process. But not only CA, most of these new political parties, they want to provide new opportunities for people. And so young people have also been calling to form their own political party or a party that has been led by a young person. So for me, what I see is that there is still a cleavage, and also in terms of the educated and so not educated. So those are issues that are beginning to show up in terms of our political discourse. But for me, what I think is it is going to be interesting, and I don't think it is only based on age that one can win political power. It must be based on national consensus, people agreeing that you have the best policies. Even, of course, people here follow individuals instead of ideas. But those things can also change because there's a lot of young people, and the education level in this country is also increasing. The university is doing a lot of good job. And today, if you look at the whole country, you see many places where you have the university. So things are changing. Whether it will change in 2021, whether it will change after that, but the country is moving, and I think that is what must be recognized.
Lastly, in your opinion, do you think, Doctor, you know him very well, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay will do well as a politician?
Well, I know him as my lecturer. Let me be clear, and I know him as an individual that has that strongly believe in his ideas, and he is very open based on things that I know of him. He taught me, and back at the university, we studied political science at the university. So he came back around 2008, 2009, and that time we were not teaching anything that directly related to Gambian politics. And I remember he started contemporary Gambian politics and the desire to expose the people in terms of what we needed to know about our country. And today for me at the university, I don't teach anything else. I only focus on Gambian politics. And so he inspired that. He inspired a lot of generations, and he's been he also was the head of our department for quite some time, and then so we were very active. So as a politician, he has to be tested, but I am hopeful in terms of the personality that he is. He's a I mean, he's interested in this country and he has the country at heart, and like almost everyone else. So we need to see what ideas he's going to bring, what new things he's going to bring that is different from others. And I think that will make him different from the other politicians. But if the political landscape continue to be the same, it might not be the same. So, but he has to be tested, and he is coming in new. So we will wait and see.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lame.
Thank you. Said Mati Jau, political science lecturer at the University of the Gambia, speaking to me there on the issues that are affecting the country. That will be that for today. Thank you for being there. Until next.
Home is where the heart is. Home is where you feel safe and secure. Dalaba Housing Estate is the newest estate by TAF Africa Global, located strategically along the newly built Sukuta Jabang Highway. Dalaba Estates offers roads, street lights, a gated community that offers water reticulation system, solar street lights, and a proper drainage system. Over the next 10 years, TAF Africa Global aims to build 10,000 homes in the Gambia for you to own. For you to feel safe and secure in a community with all the necessities to live comfortably.